Hello and welcome back to Stop the Press. I'm Rob Chadwick and I'm a lecturer at Exeter College in journalism, and I'm sat here with Nick Copson, who is ex-head of marketing for 20 plus years for a range of national news and media outlets, and Bill Martin, who was 35 years working in the regional press, 20 years editor for both evening and morning titles. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Robert.
Just to give context, we record this in Marjohn's studios at about 2:30 on a Monday afternoon most weeks. So that's why I say good afternoon, just in case you're wondering what's going on. How have we been for the last couple of weeks, guys? What have we been up to?
A
holiday again, Bill?
Yes, permanent on holiday.
Obviously.
Yeah. The weather's been beautiful, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been great. Yeah.
That's been good. So lots of cricket, lots of different stuff for me. Most interesting thing I've done is I've been to see a rock band.
Ooh, hello.
Wow. Who did you see?
Not Oasis.
AC/DC.
No, not them either. I took my wife, it's a Christmas present, her favourite brand, Duran Duran.
Oh, fantastic. I really liked Duran Duran. I saw Duran Duran in 1986. They were amazing.
They were great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
They were on with Sabrina Carpenter the other day.
It's a bit like when...
Support act.
No, went on stage together and they did Hungry Like the Wolf together.
Oh, okay.
Bridging the age divide, I believe it's called, like Robert Smith and Olivia Rodrigo at Glastonbury.
It's a bit like when I went to see ABBA, Voyage or Voyage, however they call it, which is amazing. Either of you seen that?
Not yet.
No.
Highly recommended. I was sort of dreading it, as I was a bit like Duran, but then when I got there, I realised that I knew the words to every song and that the entire show was the sort of soundtrack to my... first half of my life, really.
They've got great songs as well.
I think the good thing about Duran Duran is that I don't think they've ever actually been uncool. You know, some 80s bands, they went through a period of, like, nobody was interested.
Kajagoogoo.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. But Duran Duran somehow cut through that, and whilst they've disappeared off the radar for a bit, they've actually come back quite a few times, haven't they, over the last 20 years, really, and still be quite sort of relevant, I think. Which is quite cool.
Always felt those sort of 80s bands, those pop bands, because they played their own instruments, were taken much more seriously than the ones that came out subsequently, really. You know, people like Duran and Culture Club playing their own stuff was great.
Plus they've all still got their own hair, which helps as well.
Yes, indeed.
Right? If all that goes, you kind of lose a little bit of credibility, I think. So, no offence, Bill.
Fantastic. What have you been up to in the last 2 weeks?
Style.
What have you been up to in the last 2 weeks?
Not much apart from I had some drama with my pet dog. Long story, but it got damaged because of my foolish actions.
What happened?
I was tomfooling around with the children in the park with an extendable lead. I went one way, the kids stayed in the middle, dog went that way, or this whatever. I went arse over proverbial, and accidentally my trailing leg booted the dog.
Oh dear!
It's entirely accidental. I hope nobody saw it, but it was accidental.
Oh dear!
And the dog's fine, by the way. Yeah. But I had to spend overnight in the vets.
So cheap.
Yeah, I learnt, yes.
Mine's insured. Always have pet insurance is my advice there. And in my last 2 weeks, we finished the students. They've gone for the summer. I've got one more week of basically socialising, and then I'm off for 5.5 weeks, which I cannot wait for.
One more week of basically socialising?
Yeah, we go down the pub and things for the last week of term.
It's public money, Nicholas.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. That's your money that I'm spending there. Excellent. And I'm proud of it.
Said you should be a politician.
Yeah.
At least you tell the truth.
There you go. And I'm more than proud of it. Right, okay. So today we are going to explore a bit more long-form journalism, podcasts, documentaries on TV, maybe even a bit of talking about docudramas and things like that. I'm going to start with throwing out the question, what do we listen to and watch in terms of long-form journalism? I know I listen to and watch a lot, so I'll come last. But what about you guys? What do you listen to and watch in terms of long-form journalism?
Well, we're specifically going to talk about podcasts as well, weren't we?
Yes.
So I have to hold up my hand and say I've never, apart from this one, of course, I've never successfully made it through an entire podcast. It's just not a format that works for me, even though everyone has said to me, you should listen to podcasts, you should listen to this, you should listen to a Diary of a CEO. I've never succeeded.
Well,
not even Tailenders, which is Jimmy Anderson's podcast he does with the Radio 1 DJ.
Greg James.
I can remember Greg James, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never made it through that. So there's my admission. But I do listen to a lot of radio.
Yes.
So this goes back to the conversation we were having previously about, radio, especially now that if you have a smart speaker, I can listen to the programs I want to listen to at any time I want, although I do normally listen to them in live time, and I listen to them in the car and that sort of stuff. So that's probably the longest form of journalism that I consume now, other than docudramas, but we'll talk about them in a bit, I expect.
What about you, Nick? What have you listened to in terms of podcasts? Let's start with podcasts.
I'm the polar opposite to Bill. I listen to radio, of course, but I very much see podcasts to radio as Netflix is to broadcast TV. Really, I see a similar sort of behavioural technological contrast. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. In fact, I drove back from London yesterday afternoon, and 4 hours on the road is no pleasure at all, is it? But I was sort of looking forward to it, so I thought, I've got 4 hours to sit down and relax and just listen to some podcasts.
I'd have been the same.
Yeah, and
without the podcast.
I listen to Hours for a start. There's one of our listens. But I also listen to a great 3 or 4 parter on the history of the Titanic, which was fascinating. Which I listened to 2 episodes. There's 2 more to go, by the way. But it was fascinating. Who was narrating that? I can't remember who was narrating it. But it was. I assume it was very, very well researched. I listened to Dan Snow talking about some historical topics. I think Genghis Khan was one of them I listened to a bit. The kind of stuff I would just never would. I'm sort of intrigued, but I would never sit down and read a book on it. I would never even watch a documentary on it. But because I was driving with nothing else to do, I listened. Chris Harris, who I love cars, Chris Harris, the motor journalist, he's got a brilliant podcast with 3 of his mates. They talk about cars. I could listen to that all day long. Just literally, it's just 4 guys bantering away about cars. Brilliant. So I love podcasts. I'm fully engaged. I'm fully immersed. And I love the breadth of different content topics. I love the choice that's available. You can find something on anything. And of course,
on the same journey, I'd have listened to sport on the radio. I can tell you what I'd have listened to yesterday. I'd have listened to the cricket until it was obvious that we were going to lose. And then I would have turned over and listened to the tennis. It was Sunday yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. If it had been a weekday, I'd have listened to Trevor Nelson in the afternoon. So there's still choice.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're calling journalism just about anything that's on the radio, or for instance, the guy's talking about cars. Are we calling that long form journal? Are we calling that a podcast about a journalistic podcast? Are we talking? Where do we think the line is there in terms of journalism nowadays?
Well, it's not journalism as such, is it? I don't know. I'd see it as entertainment, but maybe it is a form of journalism. They do talk about news-related topics, of course. Mm-hmm. So in the automobile industry.
Well, I'll go back to Jeremy Clarkson's programme that he did about cars. What was that called?
Top Gear.
Another thing I never watched. Top Gear. I did watch that a couple of times, actually. Right.
It's very good.
Journalism?
Yeah, because they're investigating cars and stuff, and that's an investigative thing, so that's journalism, isn't it?
Yeah, or reportage, maybe, and journalism and
elements of it,
and
not
entertainment
journalism
combined.
Yeah,
got a bit crazy when the whole aim seemed to be to crash the car or drive it off a cliff or something like that. So you were veering into entertainment there, weren't you? But definitely in its roots, it was journalism, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So is your car podcast is probably similar?
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it's they're engaging and interesting in ways that often television and radio aren't, because they're formulaic in most cases. Television and radio work to a formula, either through commercial broadcast radio and TV, as in you have to have adverts on them, or there's certain movements and behaviours in them that they have to stick to. Are they because they're live? They're almost always live, right? But with podcasts, you can do lots of things. There are less rules, it feels. And I quite like that. I quite like the fact that they can just do something and talk, and you feel like you're getting the real person.
And what I like about them, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, I listen to a lot of radio, I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm a consumer. I'm one of those people who just wants lots of stuff incoming into my brain. I can't just sit down and watch light entertainment. I have to be kind of informed at the same time.
Do you not like The Wheel?
I do not really watch the Knit Wheel. I'm sure that, listen, television is so well made nowadays that all of these programs, I'm sure, are absolutely well watchable. But I find myself thinking this is a waste of my time when I'm watching things like the only things that I can get through like that are House of Games and stuff. But that's because it's quiz questions and I can play along and stuff.
Well, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm burning my life through watching something that's like...
Yeah, I cannot engage with Love Island. And I know that if I did, I'd enjoy it and I'd start getting into it. But I can't do it because I feel like it's just wasting my time. Anyway, not that it's wasting everybody else's time. I'm not belittling anyone. It's just my time that I would be wasting. But yeah, I listen to a lot. And what I like about it is it gives time to really investigate and to go into it in a lot of depth. So John Ronson's Things Fell Apart series, there's 2 series of it now, which are both like 6 or 7 episodes each. And he's gone into so much detail and so much research on the beginnings of the culture wars. And it's so interesting to find out that stuff and why they came about and the people he talks to and everything that he goes along with it. It's a brilliant form of journalism, his podcasts. And it really gives those journalists, people I really admire, like John Ronson, the time to really investigate stuff in lots and lots of detail. And that's what I like about it. I also listen to a brilliant podcast called I can't remember what it's called, but it's about the Totnes conspiracy theorists during the pandemic, and basically it's just fantastic how this massive conspiracy grew in Totnes, and they started publishing a paper called The Voice and stuff like that, and it's just an amazing show. That's a BBC one. I'll look it up in a minute and I'll tell you what it's called. But yeah, I love that stuff, and then I love what the BBC, the Storyville documentaries. Do you ever watch the Storyville documentaries on BBC 4?
They're really good.
Yeah. I watched a fantastic one about how China are monitoring its population through lots of CCTV and people being appointed guardians in certain areas of their communities, and they have to tell people to go home after 9:30, and if they have parked their bike outside, they knock on the door and say you've got to take your bike inside and stuff. And it's like so regimented, and how that's put together, it's really interesting.
Do you listen on headphones?
I don't. I listen in the car.
Right.
So only when you're driving?
So radio podcasts when I'm driving, obviously not TV because that would be dangerous. But yes, radio podcasts while I'm in the car mainly. Yeah. And I drive to Exeter and back every day, so that gives me 3/4 of an hour going and 3/4 of an hour coming back.
So you've planned your content for that journey?
Yeah,
always.
Yeah.
Oh, you're organised in life.
Yeah, I subscribe to podcasts, and I just play whatever's on my subscribed podcasts. The other one that I listen to every time it comes out is Adam Buxton, because he's a brilliant interviewer and he's really interesting. That's a really good podcast. But yes, and then sometimes I do the more comical ones. There's a great one by Jo McNally where she investigated the conspiracy around Avril Lavigne being dead. Are you aware of that conspiracy?
Only because you told us about it.
There's a 6-part documentary.
I mean, musically she's dead, but
no, she was supposed to have died in the 90s or something, and
was she really?
been replaced by a doppelganger. And Jo McNally does a investigation, but with a tongue firmly in cheek about it, and it's a brilliant 6-part documentary. It's so funny. It's really interesting. So it's just a brilliant format, this podcast.
The thing with podcasts, and we sort of touched on it, and you're clearly touching on it now, is that you can cover any aspect of any part of life, history, the future in entirety, really, mainly because you can actually produce a podcast for very little money. And
this proves that.
Correct. and also you're not behest of any schedule. So the kind of thing that television or radio won't touch because of the production requirements to do it, or because they haven't got room in the schedule to do, means that suddenly you can cover anything as long as you're engaged or interested in it.
Yeah.
There are podcasts out there that have probably got 5 listeners. Not just ours, by the way. There'll be other podcasts that have only got 5 listeners, right? But somebody's still doing it with passion because they're not investing much money in it, and they care, right? So, and I sort of admire that. Really, I love it.
Yeah, I must admit, every time I come to this, I think to myself, why are we doing this? And then I actually start doing it. I think this is quite enjoyable to do, even if no one's listening to it. And it's right. I'll put up with it. The conspiracy one about Totnes is called Mariana in Conspiracy Land. I really recommend it to anyone. It's both interesting and humorous. It's 10, 15-minute episodes, and it's really, really good. Really interesting. So that's one way. So the podcast, is that, going back to our last episode, our podcast now, what is going to replace kind of mainstream news, in that people who really want to engage will engage fully and deeply with the subject?
Possibly, but essentially it comes down to choice, doesn't it? And again goes back to that issue of trust. So if people, I mean, the one I know most about is Diary of a CEO.
That's Stephen Bartlett.
That's Stephen Bartlett. And I think because people believe in him and they believe in his values and they believe in his extraordinary success story, he's got the sort of credibility and apparently he's quite good. He's a good interviewer, and he certainly gets good interviewees, doesn't he? So it comes down to choice, isn't it? That's what people choose now. They want to watch. They might or listen to. They want to listen to that rather than listen to another BBC journalist saying, "Oh, Minister, you refuse to answer the question," or something. Because we've seen that so many times. So it's kind of refreshing, isn't it, to see Stephen Bartlett. I mean, what is he, a businessman turned interviewer now, isn't he? Or maybe conversationalist, perhaps. Mm-hmm. And he's exploring issues, aren't he, that matter to people. So I know he's done quite a lot about health and fitness and how to eat properly and that sort of stuff, the sort of things that people are obsessing about now. So in a sense, it's like the collapse of linear TV watching and that sort of thing. People can choose now. So podcast is one of those places they go because it's convenient and it's cheap. I think it's cheap too.
But it's also, I think it's probably cheap when it is just some people talking sat around a desk. But I think John Ronson's Things Fell Apart would have cost an enormous amount of money. He's travelled around the world interviewing people and doing lots of research and stuff. Yeah. But he would have needed to be properly commissioned. Oh, it's easy to consume, without a doubt. Well,
yeah. The convenience part, I think, is one of the keys to the successes. Although it's changing habits and all that sort of stuff. But most, radio you can consume on anything now as well. But podcasts are like intrinsically linked to these things, right? And these things are intrinsically linked to... Nick's
holding up his phone. People.
Correct, sorry.
He forgets that we're on radio.
For those watching black and white, smartphone.
His shoes are purple.
It's lucky I'm here, isn't it?
I know. But these smartphones are intrinsically linked to earphones and other stuff, right? Which means you can listen to something almost wherever you want. You can listen to it cooking, you can listen to it running, in the car, you can listen to it just walking the dog. So suddenly consuming that media becomes very, very, very convenient to do, which obviously builds its kind of engagement anyway, right? So, and that's, even radio, radio, yeah, you can listen to it on your phone, right? But it's still very much linked to a box in a corner, so you're not necessarily going to listen to your headphones. Telly, obviously you have to watch it on, in most cases, a television, right? Which means you're at home. So
have you never watched telly on your phone?
YouTube, yeah, sometimes, yeah.
I'm not a big watcher on my phone.
No, it's a bit small, isn't it? Screen small.
Yeah, can't be bothered. It's not. What's the point? I'll watch something when I've got a screen in front of me. I don't need to watch something all the time. Does my head in. So going on from that, the role of kind of journalistic stuff where we are being given documentaries on TV and they tell the story of, I mentioned before we started, the 5-part serial on the Serbian war that the BBC did, and they just got every talking head in there. They had Blair and they had Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and they had one of the Serbian war criminal people on it, Mladic, I think it was. And it's just like, you just watch it and you think, I am properly being informed now because I am getting every single possible point of view on this war thing here. That is well-made journalism, long-form journalism, and I'd suggest that is a form of journalism that's being done as well as ever, if not better than ever.
I'd say definitely better.
You would?
Yeah, there's more of it. There's more appetite for it, isn't it? And it's more easily accessible.
Yeah.
Remember documentaries when we were growing up, they were kind of always on BBC Two, weren't they? They were always very serious.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure they were that informative.
Padded out a bit.
And there weren't that many of them, were there? You know, it was Panorama.
Horizon.
You know, Horizon. I can remember, you know, whenever the music for either of those started, I was like, oh, God.
I wonder if the young ones is on.
So, you know, I think that, you know, the TV streaming companies are investing masses in investigative or reportage, or even faction. Would you call it faction now? Or
There's
docudramas?
Big audience for it. Making of a Murderer, things like that. Lots of people watched that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Big audience for that sort of stuff nowadays.
Well, you've got to think one of the...
And then, as you say, things like Mr. Bates versus the Post Office as a docudrama type thing as well.
Must be one of the most powerful docudramas, you know, of the last 5 years.
If not more.
And in terms of its political impact, it has been enormous.
Yeah. Without doubt.
And you know, you'll find lots of journalists back when we were young, and even now, who'd say, "Oh, I'm a storyteller. I'm just interested in telling stories," which I always used to think was slightly sort of
disingenuous.
Well, you know, a bit sort of up your own backside. If you know what I mean. But in fact, you know, that is a key part of what journalists do, isn't it? It is tell stories, hopefully accurate ones. I was always slightly uncomfortable when people said we're storytellers, because I'm a bit like, well, we're not in Blyton, are we?
Well, that makes it sound like you're making stuff up, doesn't
exactly.
it? Yeah.
But how to tell a story and how to effectively inform a large audience, I think the sort of the rise of the docudrama is fascinating.
Yeah.
I'd check that one, Mr. Bates, and I would also check the Jimmy Savile.
I had a problem with the Jimmy Savile one in that it was well done, and Steve Coogan was phenomenal in it, obviously, as an actor. But I kept on thinking to myself, why? What's the point in telling this story? It's all been in the press. Everybody knows this story. Are you telling it because we're trying to inform people? Because actually you're not. We all know it. Or are you telling it because you just want some bums on seats? And that just felt a bit tawdry.
Yes, and quite uncomfortable. I mean, the whole thing was uncomfortable to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But in terms of effectively telling that story, and you know, people will always question certain amounts of accuracy in docudramas and things like that. But how it portrayed the sort of acceptance, or the way that the organisation itself is almost complicit in facilitating Savile, I thought it was very effective.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I kind of felt like we've talked about it before. The BBC mea culpa thing. Oh, look, we're really, really impartial because we're going to be really culpable again, and we'll show you how culpable we are by making a programme that tells us we're culpable and stuff. It just all feels a bit. Well, the BBC do it all the time, don't they? And it's almost like they're saying, "Well, now we've shown you it. Can we all move on?"
I don't know if I agree with that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I think they. Was there an agenda behind producing that particular documentary? I'm not sure it was that one.
Yeah, I just couldn't work out why it was made. Really,
You know about Steve Coogan one?
yeah, I couldn't make it. You know, I can see why a documentary would be made, but I can't see the point in making a docudrama. It felt all a bit seedy.
Well, yeah, it was uncomfortable to watch. I agree with that, and you know,
the story's seedy though, isn't it?
But I think the whole thing is that it and as much as you don't want necessarily that to be brought to life ever again, obviously, but the, you know, the nature of a docudrama or some kind of acted process is that it does add a bit more life to it. to help you understand what actually might have happened there. You know, a documentary goes so far, but sometimes you need a bit more life pumped into it. I suspect that was made, but also because they knew there was an audience for it. To your point, there was an audience for it. People are still fascinated, as horrible as it is, they're still fascinated by that. And people are fascinated by also... I mean, I watched...
There's a serial killer genre, isn't
well,
there?
I watched a documentary, 3-part on Netflix, literally over the last 4 or 5 days on Fred West and Rosemary West.
Oh, yeah.
Which I sort of lived through, of course, and I knew lots about, but it was intriguing to go back and watch it again, because you know, history, you are compelled to understand the criminal mind sometimes, or try to understand it. So I suspect that's what it's made.
And I think documentaries, when they're at their best, will shine a light on stuff and say, these are the lessons to be learnt. One of the best I've watched over the last few years was the one about Woodstock 99. Have either of you seen that?
Superb.
It's fantastic, isn't it? Just 3 parts. And at the end of each part, you think, well, it can't get any worse than that.
But it does.
And it does. And it's just...
I'm not aware of that one.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like this litany of mistakes made by a bunch of old hippies who don't really understand that people won't behave exactly how they want them to behave the whole time.
Right.
And then a bunch of heavy metal artists just making it much worse. And I won't tell you how it ends, but it just ends in the most carnage you've ever seen. The start of the whole thing is after the end of the festival. There's someone driving past the field, and you've got a camera looking out of their car window, and it looks like a war has gone on as they go along this site. And it is just unbelievable, isn't it? It's brilliant. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen, I think.
And the actual reality of that happening, you know, I don't really remember that as being a...
No, neither do I.
Just, you know, I sort of remember, oh yeah, doesn't that festival that didn't all go well? Or, you know, but in fact it was, you know, and you're right, you know, that's a story properly told, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And we
also
laughed.
introduced me to that band who'd completely, I think they're called Korn, aren't they?
Yeah.
Korn,
With
yes.
a K?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
Very noisy. Aren't we old? Very noisy at Korn, aren't they? Very noisy. Disapprove. Before we started today, I think someone mentioned Iron Maiden, and someone went, "Oh God, you can't do that."
I could do that.
Yeah, I really like
You know,
Iron Maiden.
I'm a rock fan, but
Yeah.
you know, Korn, a different level. Well, certainly in that performance, anyway.
Yeah.
They were a different level.
And Limp Bizkit behaved particularly badly. Anyway, it's well worth a watch. I can
watch
tell
it.
you
I'll look that out.
Yeah. So yeah, I think long form
But that's
journalism.
a great example, isn't it? You know, of reportage, long form. It wasn't that long, was it? But you know, an effective storytelling. So you know, you're back to that, you know, slightly sort of up your own backside way of what journalism can do. You know, how you tell stories effectively, and if that's the best way to tell that story, which you know, retrospectively, undoubtedly it was, then you know, it's very, very effective, isn't it?
Well researched. Main protagonists all interviewed. Like really, really good, really interesting, and really well made. Proper journalism.
There's a brilliant documentary on one of the streaming services after the week. It's about the Fire Festival. Have anyone heard about this?
Yeah, I think I've seen that documentary.
It's I knew nothing about this at the time.
Is it the
bunch of-
Burning Man?
No. It's essentially a super contemporary festival that was organised on a private island somewhere in the South Pacific. I don't know, wherever it was, and by some entrepreneurial promoter, like out of college, who didn't have a freaking clue what he was doing, but was well connected, and he was basically charging tickets at £50,000 a piece to basically fly, you know, first class flights out to this island, you know, premium accommodation, the biggest acts in the world coming in just for that island festival, you know, all promoted on social media like never seen before. I knew nothing about it, but all the footage is actually, although it's told retrospectively, the footage is from at the time. You know, so it's not like done with a load of post-event interviews. It's done with footage that was filmed, designed to tell the story of success after the event. The reality was it was a car crash like never seen before. And actually looking at it, watching it, it was frightening. The level of ineptitude going on.
Oh, that's the same with this Woodstock.
That it was
one.
allowed to happen. It was allowed to happen. I was watching it. I was almost scared watching it, thinking, "Oh my God, these are people." Some of them were just like everyday people who somehow got together this money to come to this once in a lifetime social media event of the century, or how they saw it. And they were basically fleeced.
Yeah.
And it was scary to watch.
Yeah.
It's I knew it weren't under my radar when it was actually happening. It's only in the last 10 years, wasn't it? I think?
Yeah. No, it was. Yeah.
But that's the sort of thing that documentaries and docudramas and all that sort of stuff can tell, can't they? There's loads of things happening in the world that ultimately don't often make the news.
And it's a lot better being able to tell a story in that amount of time. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
With the ability to go and properly research, but then it needs funding. And it's like, it's good to see Netflix funding stuff. It's good to see the BBC still funding stuff. It's good to see that funding is still out there to make these documentaries, isn't it? Is there?
Have you watched any of these sports docs?
Yeah,
Quite a few. Yeah,
loads.
There's one made about the Australian cricket team called The Test.
I haven't seen that one.
It's been gone to 3 series now. It's literally a camera in the dressing room while they're on tour at home and things like that. It's
really
fascinating.
Yeah.
One, because of the insight you get into the individuals within that team, but how teams are created, how they fall apart, all that sort of stuff is fantastic. And it's, we never used to have access like that to
No, indeed.
those types of things, did we?
I've been watching Welcome to Wrexham. I love that show. That's about Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney taking over the team and where they've gone from there to there. 4 series now, and it's brilliant. I love it. What I love about it is it's not really about them. It's about the club and the area and all of that stuff. And you really get, if you watch it and you're not a football fan, I defy you not to understand why football is important at that point, because it just really tells the story of why people love it and what it means to them and all of the stuff that goes around it and the stuff the football team does for the community and everything that goes with it. And I just think it's a really well-made piece of television, without a doubt.
Another thing that a couple of others have mentioned to me is a thing on Netflix at the minute called American Sweethearts.
Oh, yeah.
About cheerleaders.
Which is about cheerleaders.
Yeah,
and of course I haven't watched that and wouldn't dare watch it. but apparently, fascinating, in-depth, it's very competitive, elite world to become a cheerleader and they become superstars.
The fitness is unbelievable of those people and the danger that's involved as well. Funnily enough, one of my students is a cheerleader and she was showing me some pictures of one of their competitions recently because she was doing it for her photography project. And there was someone like 5 stories high on top of people, and you just think, my God, that is terrifying, unbelievable. So we have come to what we normally do in terms of length of time for a podcast. So have we got anything any other recommendations that we haven't covered that we think you should definitely have a listen to this?
Well, Bill, for a start, listen to some podcasts.
Yes. I'll give it a go.
There'll be loads of cricket ones out there for a start.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, give it a go. Yeah.
Have a go with Things Fell Apart.
Any
I think
ones?
It's absolutely amazing. What about you, Bill? We were going to talk about Nicky Campbell and phone-ins and stuff, but I think we'll do phone-ins and stuff as a part of another episode that we're going to do, which is when did the news become about feelings rather than facts?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of sort of in-depth and long-form journalism, there's still, maybe in digital form now, but that the great print titles are still doing it.
Yeah.
In many formats, and it's some of the best stuff that you'll still see, whether that be the Times or the New York Times, or there's websites like Politico now who are doing proper jobs and proper analytical long form jobs on important issues. So it's still out there.
Yeah.
Do you know, Bill, there are at least 8 podcasts just on AC/DC alone.
I'm in.
On that note,
I'm in.
I think we'd like to say thank you for listening and goodbye for now.
Goodbye for now.
Bye, guys.